Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Human versus AI, How to Ship Secure Code. My name is Joseph, and I am part of the GitHub Security Lab, which is a team with the mission to secure the open source software that we all depend on. So far, we found and helped fix more than 500 security vulnerabilities in open source software that you know and you use, or it's part of your supply chain. And we are pretty effective with a 96% fix rate, which is difficult to do because we collaborate with a different world, the world of developers, while we come from the world of security experts. And this is a difficult collaboration because the numbers don't help. There exists one application security specialist for every 100 software developers. Who is a security expert here in the audience? Okay, so if I raise my hand as one, we have one, and there are 300 seats in here, so it's just like the row here. All the rest of the cinema room are software developers today. So you can understand by yourselves the gap that we are talking about. And that's the visualization of this gap that we have just spoke. However, the world's collective security knowledge is out there. The knowledge of security people is online, in books, in blog posts. And with AI, we can distill this knowledge and have it in our fingertips, in our every next keystroke. AI, of course, leverages computers and machines to mimic the problem-solving and decision-making capabilities of the human mind. The highlight here is the mimic the problem-solving and decision-making capabilities. It's enough for the use case we are seeing, the gap between developers and security. Traditionally, among, of course, other applications, we have used it as an assistant in our life. Of course, other people have used it in other occasions, but I want to focus a bit on the mass adoption here. And in the future, maybe what's coming for mass adoption is what is already in our life and just get a click above to make us more productive. Why I'm showing you this? Because I personally find this picture a bit oxymorous. Behind this car, for instance, there are teams, thousands of software developers that contribute to AI. But behind those software developers, until recently, there was no AI to help them in what they do every day, which is to write great code. We have seen the great impact of a tool like GitHub Copilot, which was the world's first AI pair programmer. And in numbers, we know that 46% of the code committed to GitHub is now AI generated. 88% of users feel more productive. I can go on and on with numbers, but they are not important today. Our vision is to bring AI in every aspect of the software development lifecycle, from the beginning to the end. And we are going to announce in 1 month's time in our annual developer event, which is Universe, some updates to the product towards our vision. You can join for free virtually. It's in November 6, 7, and 8, November 8 and 9. Today, I'm here to show you 4 ways that developers can use AI to leverage the world's security knowledge. These 4 ways are actionable. You can use them straight away from here. And the first one is to write safer code. Let's see this snippet here in a room full of developers. There is something that is not so secure here. And if someone wants to point out a line and discuss it together, you are free to do it. Perfect. So for those who are watching the recording, someone has kindly shouted correctly, and thank you, that we are talking about line 23 The developer in the audience has found a SQL injection in line 23. For those who are not aware about it, imagine that the user input user is, instead of a name or a username, it's something malicious, like malicious SQL code. For instance, you can drop the users table, or you can do something more classic, like creating an admin user and benefit of those elevated privileges. Where I'm going with that is that someone could try to fix this problem by deleting the vulnerable code and get a suggestion from an AI assistant. Is this perfect? Is this bulletproof? Does someone see a problem with this here? Line 23 has been replaced by parameterized statements, so clearly no SQL injection in that line. Any other problem you might have? Seeing? Perfect. I make my point here because nobody has a suggestion. Let's use AI to bridge the gap where me as security specialist have something to point, and you as a developer might have guessed something, but you don't have someone next to you because of this 1 versus 100 that we've seen. Let's use the power of AI for this. I'm prompting my concern. Is the code fully secure now? I was thinking that as the code is implemented in JavaScript, in line 22, an attacker could pass an object as an input instead of a string and still achieve SQL injection. Can you provide me with, and I'm adding here a question. Can you provide me with an additional control in line 22 so that we prevent this from happening? Here, I have a discussion giving me new code that can replace the vulnerable code that we have. And what I'm trying to show you here is that we are at a stage that AI can help minimize the gap between security and developers, but it should be implemented in a way that follows best practices. The mistake here was not done by AI, but it was done by me as a human. I didn't give the space between lines 23 and the rest that I've deleted for my AI assistant to suggest something outside of that was vulnerable. You don't expect an AI assistant to come and comment on the culture of your company or your infrastructure. It's the same mindset. The first thing is to give the space and the context, therefore. So a better approach where I give the context is to provide it. If user is not empty and user is a string, then I offer the chance for the space, and I'm getting the right security control in place. An approach that will be better from the beginning will be to provide the whole context after someone pointed out the problem in line now 24, deleting, and you expect to have a suggestion that takes in mind the whole context. If you want to have the context more automated, there is this extension that is called GitHub Copilot Labs that in the form of button encapsulates some actions like fixing a bug or making the code more readable. And the only thing you need to provide is the context. Now, as a step towards a more secure future, we have implemented what we call the security filter so that we act on a gap on the training of the model. The model has been trained in all publicly available code, which includes code that is secure, code that is low quality, not secure. We added this filter to help the suggestions that you get not be vulnerable. However, nothing is perfect. The best practice is to test all your code, including the suggested code. Because Copilot is not here to replace you, or the security expert is here to do an integration with you and the security expert. You are the pilot, and GitHub Copilot is the co-pilot. I want to show you this example here, where I prompt for listing the security issues in the code and propose changes. The way that a model like this works is to predict the next token, the next word. A security tool is way more advanced. Tools are built in relational databases, they follow inputs around, they are way more advanced. In this case, we have some problems being pointed out. They happen to be correct, but they only take into consideration the file that is open when it comes to security problems. When it comes to suggest code, they take into consideration the whole code that is open there as a context. My advice to you is to always follow best security practices, which is again to test all your code, including the suggested code. This brings me to the second way you can use AI, which is to find the security issue. And I want to add here the word find the security issue faster or more productively. I'm going to use a static application security testing tool, a SaaS tool, to show you this, which is called CodeQL. You can be a consumer of it by 3 clicks, and you can receive alerts after pushing your code because you have an action running behind the scenes on your CI/CD pipeline, or you can be someone who writes code to find security issues. If you are the first category, i.e. the person who wants to enable it passively on the pipeline, it just takes 2-3 clicks like you see here, and that's enough. If, however, you are someone who wants to take the queries into their hands, here you have some code that is super simple as an example to make you visualize what I'm talking about. You have a simple Android app where you have a username and password towards authentication. If you are someone who wants to understand where this query is going to be executed and the input of the username or the password being passed, you can write a small query like this one in this language that is called CodeQL, coming from code query language. You can execute this query, and then you can find the places in the code that you have what you are looking for occurring. There's a strong community behind, and you see where I'm going with this. This strong community contributes queries like that, so you don't have to do it. For example, you have someone in Argentina finding a problem in something, and then someone is gonna wake up in Australia later that has this thing fixed over the air during the night because we work as a community. So where I'm going is here. If I want to become more productive, what I can do, it's frozen. My computer is frozen. So the god demons are not with us. So let me just, if I can ask for some help here. So in the meantime, where I'm going to is,
with the computer I cannot solve. I can only do the.
Okay, let's do this. Sorry about it. This is, it's actually frozen. It's my laptop, so I apologize about it. Okay, until it comes on, you can prompt with AI and ask, okay, go through these community contributions and find me a suitable query of the past so that I can use it to query my own code. Let me log in. Just to keep you in the loop, I had the British keyboard on, and I should go with the US one. Done. Okay, we are back to fully 90.99999 availability. I will switch it on just a moment. Okay, just to recap quickly, we are here today to see 4 ways that we can use AI to minimize the gap between security and developers. I'm opening the slides right now. Yeah, we can cut this. We are back to normal. The cable is back. Okay. Okay. Let's go where we were, which is here. No, here. Okay, perfect. Okay. Apologies, this never happened in the previous presentations. So I'm asking now, how can... No, I'm asking, okay. These community contributions, we are trying to secure problems of the past. Imagine Log4j and you name it, okay? Any vulnerability has been matched to a query. And of course, any variation of this vulnerability has been matched to a query. My code on the right is suffering from something very specific. Like you mentioned before, SQL injection, but this is just a small example because, of course, you can have any other problem and you can have a variant of it, okay? I can name dozens of ways that I can exploit a single SQL injection. So I can ask here, what CodeQL queries of the past do you suggest to run on my code? The productivity gains I have are through the fact that I'm not manually going through the previous queries, reading them and understanding what I have to do. I'm asking my AI assistant to do this work for me, give me the names of the queries, and of course the pathways and explanations. Now I'm asking, okay, customize one of the above or more to my own code. And here I have code alongside instructions of how to run it that give me a query that I can perform static analysis on my code. Of course, you can use the traditional way, which is to provide a comment. So you can have suggested code. Here I'm asking to all the paths towards a DOM node. I'm looking for DOM-based cross-site scriptings, and I'm having the suggested code. What you will find useful in this case is to get code explained. And this is because this language has a steep learning curve, and you can get step-by-step instruction of what every line is doing. For those interested on how we use AI in general for this, we are using it to model vulnerabilities. Every vulnerability occurs in specific ways, in specific patterns, in specific architectures. So with AI, we can boost the way that we model our language towards those problems. And for those that are interested, it's free for open source with supported languages, including C, C++, C#, and the rest you can see on screen. I'm trying to save for the time that I lost during the reboot. Community powered, and of course there's AI used behind the scenes. This is my favorite. The third case that you can use AI is developer training. Let's get to this example where someone in the audience mentions that the code is vulnerable to SQL injections. Again, it could be any other vulnerability. And you don't know about it. What you can do is to ask your AI assistant about it, but what's the reason? Someone can tell me, okay, I don't exit, I don't break my productivity, I'm still in the browser. A better reason is the fact that the response is gonna be tailored to your code. Because what you can find about a vulnerability can be generic or can be generic, lacking personalization. You have a Google-like answer here, of what is a SQL injection with an example, how someone can exploit your code. And you can get a bit more personal here by asking, how can you tailor your examples on my code? I'm struggling to see the connection between theory and practice. This is something that I personally struggle with. You can tell me so many things, here's how to code, here's the documentation, but when it comes to applying to my problem, I might have an issue with it. So here, you get a specific way that someone can attack your own variant of SQL injection in the code. And of course, the education you get, the training you get, is also tailored to the exact variant you have in your code, helping you connect the dots. The final thing that security and developer, you can use security as a developer, is for security guidance. I put an asterisk here on the security guidance because it's the first time that we are going to prompt for something that is beyond code. Copilot was created for code. It's meant to be your AI pair programmer. Now I want to go one step further and prompt for security. I'm going to use a technique that is called fuzzing to show you the case I want to. Sometimes hacking is not about breaking things. Sometimes it's about throwing some things and see where and when and if a program is gonna crash or have in general some behavior that is not normal. It can be being slow. What we can do is to prompt about it. I have a code on the right, I'm the person on the left, and I can say, can you fuzz the code on the right? Here the response looks like a human programmer, despite coming from an AI one. I'm a programmer, I only code. I'm not meant to be fuzzing your code. But sometimes the AI programmers can be a bit more helpful. And here we have some background about fuzzing. Here's what it is. Here's how you could fuzz your code if you so want to. Back to the asterisk I put initially. This shows us that we can have a step towards the direction of understanding something that is security related, but it's not perfect. It's not outperforming or matching the security expert. So my advice is to always get the guidance of a security specialist when it comes to situations like that. And the productivity gain that you have is twofold. The first thing is that you build a background that is tailored on your code using your AI assistant. And the second one is that the code that has been suggested to you is also a pain point for the security professional. And I'm going to prove you this by the next prompt. I'm asking, can you generate the fuzzing strings or the fuzzing inputs? I would like to have a wide variety of inputs that are both invalid and unexpected. I'm giving requirements to my AI assistant in the same way that a security professional will do. As a security specialist, I can tell you that it's also a pain point for us. It's time consuming to come up with the code. It's time consuming to do this process that is daunting. It's not productive. So in the same way, I can use Copilot to come up with this. As a developer, you can use it to come up with that. Just remember that it's a Copilot. In this case, the security specialist is the pilot. Finally, I would like to show you the blue text at the end. In this case is, how can I use these fuzzing strings to test my application? This is auto-generated. It's a natural follow-up of the conversation. And I find it very useful because naturally, you might not know what to ask next. This is because a developer might lack interest, passion, etc. about security. So I can click that, I can learn by clicking it how I can use these fuzzing inputs to test my application. And of course, you get another blue text coming. I should make the video longer to show you that. In general, you keep getting blue text to suggest the next thing. Now, I want to touch on privacy because there is no good security if privacy is not there. The number one question I'm getting asked is, okay, very nice, I see the point of Copilot, but my company doesn't want to use it because we are afraid that we are training the model, we give you our code, and so on. It's not correct because you can find all these common answers in this website. Dozens of questions being answered, and to answer the hot one is that we don't retain any data or prompts, context, and your own code. If you are on the business license, it's not even an option to enable it. If you are on the individual license, you have the option to opt in or opt out at any point. In the same way you share analytics, you tick or untick that feature with any other product. Today, we've seen 4 ways that developers can use AI to leverage the world's security knowledge, and I want to summarize those. First one was to write safer code by providing, of course, the right context, benefiting from the feature of security filtering, and the best practice is to test all your code, including the code that has been suggested to you. The second way was to find security issues. We've shown CodeQL here in order to be more productive when it comes to finding queries of the past that has been contributed by the community, so that you speed the process of writing your own query, either by the help of AI suggestions or yourself, and getting code explained. Then we have developer training with tailored examples based on the specific variant of the security vulnerability in your code. Here you can bridge the gap between the generic theory and the actual code you have in your browser, in your editor. Finally, you can get security guidance covering the theory, tailored examples on your code, and boilerplate code generation with suggested follow-ups to make fast both you and the security specialist. Other ways you can use security with AI is, of course, with threat intelligence. You can ingest large amounts of intelligence and help prioritize. For example, you are using a specific software, you have millions of messages about it, but you don't know what to prioritize. You can use AI to come up with a summary or to raise awareness on you about what you should focus on. The second one is penetration testing. Of course, you can generate exploits, speed up your research when it comes to, oh, they are using this software, this version, what are some common vulnerabilities and exposures about it? Malware analysis, because you have signatures in malware and you have libraries of malware for the past 20 years that you can go on and come up with common aspects. SecOps, when it comes to finding problems with alerts, policy automation. There are many others that I didn't put here to save the space. You can use it in ways that we haven't even seen yet. Again, I'm coming from the GitHub Security Lab, which is a team of security experts with the mission to inspire and enable the community to secure the open source software. We publish a lot of education material for developers. This is actually my passion, to create short form content like shorts focused on developer. To do so, I'm using a different language. Instead of a typical security specialist coming to you as a developer and tell you, oh, here's what's wrong with your code, here's how I could hack it, I can get this data out of it. My approach is to be developer first. I speak about vulnerable patterns, how they can be improved and optimized. And to do so, I created a game that has been a big hit among developers and is free. It has been used by other companies for free in their internal hackathons. This is the first season. The second season is coming in around 1.5 months. I'm giving functional but vulnerable code. You are asked to spot the problem and also fix it. This is because many developers that I've worked with are extremely good in spotting the problem, but when it comes to fixing it, they might introduce new problems. So you can use the code here to find the problem. You can test it against tests to make sure that it's still working, it's still functional, meeting the business requirements. You can use the hack.py to understand if the exploits are working, and you can have the hint and the model solution. The first season was more focused on Python, but the second season coming also has JavaScript, GitHub Actions, and Go. I've told you about Universe already. And thank you so much for your time today. It was 30 minutes, but I believe it was valuable. If you have any questions, we can, of course, use the time. I will repeat the questions so that everybody can listen to it. And let's do it if you have any questions. Thank you. I'm here for everybody, for anybody who wants to speak like more privately. Again, if you have questions, feel free to shout them out.